First of all, you don't know me.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
Okay, fam, it's season 8, episode 6, Not Afraid. It originally aired October 19th, 2010. As Halloween approaches in Tree Hill, Brooke and Julian get an unexpected visitor, and Nathan begins a new career. Meanwhile, Clay and Quinn struggle with life back at the beach house, and Haley and Mia host an open mic night at Trick. It was so much fun to direct this episode, and it was written by Johnny Norris.
Aww.
Ooh. And look, I went to storage yesterday in anticipation of today.
No.
I still
the hat.
I have the hat.
Orange hat.
And I brought it home.
Fascinator. What's
I
it called?
know.
The tool?
I think that's what it
so
is,
great.
right?
Yeah,
It's a
it's a fascinator.
Yes. Oh God, a rhinestone just fell off of it. It's not in great shape, but it really does give me a giggle. I did not save the papier-mâché orange. But I'll never forget it. I did also pull out my directing binder that I mean still has everything like shot list.
Copious notes.
My insane.
Oh, that makes me miss directing. Oh, just looking at that notebook makes me so nostalgic.
I know, all of like my little blocking notes on all of our little set photos. It was so fun to go through this.
So fun.
Wow, you really do keep it all. Speaking of your costume, because there's nothing I love more than when a girl bucks the tradition of like, it's Halloween, so I'm going to be sexy. I love the fact that Brooke was just a giant orange.
Yeah.
Did you have any input in that, or was that just as scripted?
Well, Carol and I had so much fun, and obviously the ideas go as a Clockwork Orange, and I sort of love that Brooke decides to do this very avant-garde, high fashion version of like a Kubrick costume.
Yeah, of course. It's the only way Brooke would have actually gone. It couldn't have possibly been anything else.
No. And so I remember going into wardrobe to sit with Carol and talk about all of this. And she was like, I think let's just put you in the orange. And we got a variety of exercise balls.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what it was, right? They papier-mâché an exercise ball.
Yeah, so we papier-mâchéed them because it had to be big enough that when we cut the head hole and then the hole for my legs, it had to cover, my whole body. I couldn't have like
slide over you.
Exactly. I couldn't have like half my ass hanging out. It would have been uncomfortable and also inappropriate. So we ended up, I think we made one and realized it only covered like 2/3 of my torso. And then we had to get a bigger exercise ball. And we just sort of had to wing it and, wait for the papier-mâché to dry. And then they'd start cutting the holes and then they'd have to pop the exercise ball or deflate it to get it out. And I remember this with you, Joy, because we were figuring out you and Kate, coming into Trick, and I was in costume directing. Yeah. So I was in the ball, and I tried to tell camera, like, okay, I want to bring them in, like this, like every director does. You're doing the thing with your hands. And I couldn't get my hands up because I had like T-Rex arms stuck in the little ball. So I wound up having to take a pen and point. It was so ridiculous and just so much fun.
I would just love to see footage from a distance, so you can't hear what you're saying, but you can tell that like you're going up to an actor and giving very serious notes while wearing this giant orange costume. Mm-hmm. And everyone's taking it very, very seriously.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember you had such a good sense of humor about it. I remember you coming up and giving direction, and it was just like, I know. Okay, just bear with me here.
Ignore my tiny little veil and this.
Yeah.
And let's make a TV
great.
show.
I mean, we were all dressed ridiculously. So that papier-mâché orange reminded me so much of, was yours dry completely by the time you put it on, or were they scrambling?
Yeah.
Because when I was in, I don't know, I must have been like 11. I was in a play. I did To Kill a Mockingbird. And at one point, Scout has I don't know if it's a town festival, it's a school play or something. And I had to wear a giant ham. And they made this huge ham costume, very much like your orange, out of paper mache and chicken wire. But they made it too late. And so the opening night, I had to put it on. It was still like sticky and wet inside. I just remember going on stage in this sticky ham paper mache costume. It was pretty funny and gross. But I'm glad yours was dry.
I think that would have really been like a hat on a hat of just, wow, I am uncomfortable and trying not to feel absolutely ridiculous being theoretically in charge whilst looking like the court jester. That would have been tough.
Yeah. Well, you had another great costume in this too, the zombie opening with the Laura Croft.
Yeah.
I died.
That was so much fun. And my whole goal with it, particularly because I loved that they wanted to do this big sort of, hyper realized nightmare. But I was so glad getting the script that Johnny wrote the jokes in, like Haley and Quinn arguing if they were vampires or zombies. Yeah. Really, for me as a director, set the tone of the whole thing. And it gave me permission to lean into the absolute camp of it. And our whole goal, and it was so much fun to do with Peter Kowalski, was to make it as stylized and silly. We were watching clips of, what's the movie the spoof movies that Chris Evans and Anna Faris did?
Scary Movie.
Scary Movie. We were watching clips of how absolutely ridiculous those movies were, in these comedic horror homages. And we were like, that's what we want. And it was nice to see it again because, as always happens on, a 1-hour show, particularly with a cast as large as ours, you lose a lot. And there was so much that we shot for that opener that had to be cut for time, these crazy transitions and these things. And some of them made it. But in my mind, I hated that opening because we were missing so much. And watching it last night, I was like, wait, this is still so funny. Like, we crushed it. And the little transitions that, I was attached to at the time totally didn't matter. And I was cackling. And some of my friends were over for dinner last night and they watched the episode with me. And they were in like peals of laughter watching all of you guys. And I was like, oh, this makes me feel really nice. I love it.
Well, I thought it was incredible. And then I found myself after it was over going, I feel like during season 7, we were doing an episode and we were talking about directing. And you brought up this scene and you were talking about how it was difficult for you to watch because you loved what you shot. And then it got chopped up and it wasn't nearly what you thought it was. And I just found myself going, that's wild because I thought it was incredible. Like,
I loved it.
It was funny. It was the right blend of action and comedy. So, I mean, I didn't notice anything.
Well, I really appreciate that. And what I think it is as a great lesson is, we can get attached to things as actors, as artists. And of course we do. That's our job, is to be obsessed with how to tell a story, how to communicate something, whatever. But it's also really nice, I think, to learn to take a step back. And much like writing, you have to cut things down. You have to edit, an op-ed or a book. You have to cut scenes to make a full story flow in the best way possible. And sometimes it's really nice to go back and look at something and be like, oh, I didn't need that. I don't miss it. I just missed it at the time because Rob did something I loved, or, Joy did something really funny and I only got to keep 2 of the 3 beats I liked. But for the story, it works. And it's kind of a nice lesson.
Always hard to kill your darlings, but often necessary.
I remember doing the prosthetic for my face. And I mean, it was a whole to do. And then I remember on the day, it was so hard for me to talk in.
Well, because it was your mouth.
Yes, which it plays because I'm missing half a mouth, basically. But I remember actually telling you, I think you remember me being like, if you could just like enunciate a little more so we can understand what you're saying. I'm like, I'm trying my best here, pal.
Yeah.
I got half a mouth.
Guys, I can't do it.
It's like you have the giant thing in at the dentist and you're like, I actually can't enunciate because my lips can't touch.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I just loved it. And it was really interesting too, to be able to, do the whole journey with Quinn, because every place she goes, something else ridiculous is happening. And I remember, working with Chantel on some of those things and being so excited about we're going to do this fast zoom into your face. And I want full, iconic horror movie scream. And she was such a good sport about just really leaning into it and being able to get some of that sort of classic old Hollywood stuff in this, and then also lean into the comedy. Even when we're at Clothes Over Bros and you see Brooke and Julian in their, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Lara Croft kind of beat. Mm-hmm. Like when Austin turns and looks at me in shock because of what she's saying.
Yeah.
I thought he was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I thought that was your guys' motif. Interesting.
I guess a little bit of all of it. He was giving me Casey Jones energy.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone was so game to be ridiculous, and I loved watching it.
Including the hair and makeup department, the special effects particularly. Rocky did such a great job. Rocky Faulkner was our resident special effects guy he did great beauty makeup, but he really loved special effects, and he went on to work on True Blood, and he's probably, did he do Interview with the Vampire with our costume designer, Carol Cutshall? I know he's doing the Michelle Yeoh show right now.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's just doing great things.
He's so talented.
So creative, so talented, always had great ideas. Grew up watching all of those Japanese slasher flicks like Tarantino always did. Mm-hmm. So he had a real breadth of knowledge of the difference between realistic and silly and when it was time to go overboard. With the thing with my makeup, with the bubbling forehead, I think we had to put a tube through my hair, right? Am I remembering this right? So I had a fake forehead, and then they had a tube running through my hair, and then a little squeezy thing at the back. And I don't know if I squeezed it or if there was somebody under the bed that was squeezing it for my shot. I don't know.
Somebody did it for you because we did it as a special. It was a close-up. And essentially it was the tube came through, and then the prosthetic was sealed on the edges.
So it just blew
and
air.
they could inflate it with a little, what is that? Like Aspirator. A little rubber. That's what it's called. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, just the things Rocky came up with were so impressive. Even the contact lenses, all of it. I remember, having to look at the VFX shot because we shot you no contacts and then contacts, and we had to then do special effects to make them transition in that close-up of you. And it was just such a fun thing to see a whole other element of movie making.
So difficult to schedule when you've got all of us, and then there's prosthetics like that. Rob, how long did yours and Amanda's take? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think mine was the most involved, though. Amanda's was a bit more it was a couple small pieces and maybe contacts, whereas mine was an entire head piece, face piece.
Your whole jaw was missing. So yeah, hours.
Yeah, and because you especially were such a great reveal, she needed to look almost normal, and when you turn, the face is so shocking. But I remember even little things, The reveal with Nathan was that he looked normal, and then he pulls out his own kidney and you realize he's not.
Yeah.
So we had to start shooting with James in regular hair and makeup, and then he had to go back to the trailer and get fully zombified.
You moved on to something else and then came back, right?
Uh-huh. And so it was a really complex thing for our AD department to schedule, but again, just so cool because by the time you're 8 years into a show, you're such a well-oiled machine and everybody knows what they're doing, and you know what the company moves look like and how it is to go from location to location. And suddenly everybody had to do something different, and people were really excited about it, and it was fun to see.
I wish I could have been a part of the camp the humor action part because it was mine was great, but it was so fun watching it that I felt myself. I had a little FOMO of just going like, oh, I want to be doing like outrageous, fighting stuff, and then
like if we had all been in Clothes Over Bros.
Yeah. I wish we had all been there, and especially just being. I was giggling, even little things, our sound mixer, it's this big action sequence and we're fighting these people in the store and Quinn's like, they're zombies. And then all the sound drops out and you just are on the close-up of the extras. And then we're back in it. It's like everybody was so game to have a good time with this.
Yeah. It was funny too, because it was at a time when the vampires were super, super popular. That was the Vampire Diaries had come out and Twilight was really at its height of popularity. And there was a whole debate about what was next, like what the next monster popular thing was going to be. And I guess zombies took the cake.
They sure did.
Walking Dead was like, hold my brain.
How long have you been waiting to drop that joke on us?
I wrote it down last night in the middle of the night, and then I couldn't go back to sleep because I was so excited about it.
I love it.
So many good things in this episode to get into.
Can we just start with when we get back to real life and we're at the Halloween party? My first notes are, oh my God, Lee looks so good. Like the slicked hair, and he's in the tank top. He's giving like Grease Lightning, and it's a vibe.
So fun.
Yes, and in 805, he's giving serious Wall Streat vibes because he's got his hair slicked back and he's wearing a suit, and it kind of made me realize there was a lot more that we could be doing with Lee. Than we were. But it was fun to see him. Yeah, the slicked back hair and the earrings and the tank top.
Yeah.
Fake abs.
The tan.
Fun reveal. The tan. Yeah.
Lisa in the Lady Gaga costume. I died.
My God.
There's just so many. I forgot that I was a pregnant cheerleader. Hilarious. I totally forgot that that's what I showed up as.
Yeah.
Nathan as Don Draper. His dream role anyway.
Yeah.
He was obsessed with Mad Men at the time.
I love that Quinn missed the mark. It was just super Quinn. That was great. I think when she says it, and Clay has a line where he's like, I don't think that reads.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Clay as Edward Cullen.
That's why I said what did read is Clay as Robert Pattinson. I mean,
so
that
great.
was so perfect. It could not have been a better pick.
So here's a question I had. Peek behind the curtain. When I lived in Wilmington, definitely season 7 and maybe season 8, at my apartment, I had a giant candy bowl that I stocked. I don't know if you guys remember this. I stocked with like every kind of candy I could find at stores. And then when anyone came over, I was like, help yourself to candy. And if I didn't have what they liked, like I'd go out and find it. That was sort of was like my thing I was very proud of. So when I just thought it was fun, I should say. So when I saw that Clay had a giant bowl of candy and then was going on about the benefits and the efficiency of a giant bowl of candy, I found myself going, is this one of those moments where they're poaching from real life? Mm-hmm. It felt like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guess so.
Yeah.
Could buy that.
I felt a few of those things. I mean, your candy bowl. Also, they had you take that dig at Halloween and call it like a creepy witch something or other.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, it's like so clearly a snarky little dig at Hilarie because by now she's left and she was our queen of Halloween. And so if you guys caught it, and I cherish that Chantel was so game to do this with me, when Quinn runs in pre everyone being in their actual costumes and she's just in like the jeans and t-shirt and baseball cap, we put her in a Red Bedroom Records hat.
I remember that.
I did notice that.
Carol and I were like, we have a way to respond to that joke that we're not, allowed to cut. And also, Rob, you delivered the joke so well because you're such a good comedic actor. And it was really fun because we were like, oh yeah, we'll do the things on the page, but the girlies are going to like send little love notes to the girlies too. And we all kind of were like, ha.
Well
seeing that hat. That was so cute. All the little callbacks, as many things as we can do to do those callbacks to the show that people fell in love with originally, the narration at the beginning, that the fact that they're still bringing like Lucas's name in. It feels so good to know that there's an intentionality on all sides of the camera, in front and behind, to really keep that nostalgia running. I love it.
I thought this week's theme song was great.
Yeah, Laura Isabor, who plays Erin, who is the piano player at the end at Trick, and singer, fabulous singer. Yeah, I liked that vibe. Voice. This was the first theme song that I really that was not Gavin's that I think I actually really liked.
Also, Joy, every single time it's a woman singing the theme song, I spend the first 2 seconds going, "Is this Joy? Is this Joy?"
I never did,
I'm just waiting for the week
hear
where you're doing it. So every week, that's how it starts for me. But
stop waiting.
For a small town, Tree Hill has a lot of talented musicians. Because not only is Laura Isabor, obviously incredible. The guy before her on a guitar, I don't know if you clocked it, was really good.
Yeah. I wonder who that was. Was it maybe a local guy?
I don't remember.
Don't know. You know what it is? It's since Tree Hill only has one, now 2 bartenders. What they lack in bartenders, they make up for in musicians.
Yeah. Well, they've got a local record label. I mean, they are cranking them out. And Amy Tipton as the pageant queen was chef's kiss. I was obsessed with that.
Okay, so she looked so familiar to me. Can you?
Yeah, Amy worked in our crew, and she bounced around a few different departments. I can't remember where she landed, but she was a staple, like just one of those friendly faces you would see every single day when you came to work. And I loved seeing her. That was her as a pageant queen singing whatever Dolly or Martina McBride song she was launching into was pretty epic.
Of the 2 surprise cameos we had this episode, she was my favorite.
Yeah, mine too.
Speaking of not necessarily a cameo, but a new introduction, we finally have Sharon Lawrence.
Oh. I love me some Sharon Lawrence.
She is so amazing.
The look on your face when she says, "Is my son here?" and you go, "Oh God, please no." I loved it. Oh my gosh.
Did you all choose that hairstyle for her?
No, I think that was just popular. It was like a shag cut. It was very popular at the time.
Yeah, she showed up with this fabulous cut, and I think we all were just so enamored and sort of taken aback. Like, she really took everyone's breath away. She's so elegant. She's so fabulous. She's so funny. I didn't know how they were going to find essentially another Daphne. And they did. They're so different, but they're matched in every way. And to have them be the 2 mother-in-laws, essentially, it's like some of the best casting our show ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon Lawrence is, for those of you who aren't super familiar with her work, I mean, she did a lot of Broadway and theaters, musical theater, actress. NYPD Blue was really the thing I think that put her on the map as Sipowitz's wife, and had big storylines there. It was her gorgeous rear end that was on television, nude for the first time on broadcast TV, not cable. What? And it went wildfire around the world in the news in 99, 97, maybe. I can't remember what the year was. But she walked out of the shower totally nude. It was a 10 o'clock at night show. And the
Standards and Practices.
Thank you.
S&P.
Standards and Practices. S&P. They went bananas. It was a whole thing. The network got fined. The show got fined. It was a big deal. But anyway, it was Sharon's fabulous ass. and I tell you, she is such a, I mean, that's just one small piece that's funny about her fame and her notoriety, but her talent is so broad. And I've never seen that woman walk. She floats through every room that she's in. Mm-hmm. And she's so elegant, so gracious, knows how to communicate her own boundaries and ideas in ways that always makes you feel good. She's just somebody that every time I'm around, I want to be quiet and listen and watch because I learned so much from her. We're so lucky that we got her.
We are so lucky. And it was really interesting. I remember, as a director, you're really watching all of your fellow actors in ways that you don't when you're simply acting with people, because the whole point when action is called is to just be in the scene. You're in the moment. And as a director, you really have to observe exactly what everyone's doing to make sure things are being communicated, etc. And it's very cool to me to go back and watch, our show in general. Obviously, it's why we do a podcast, because we're all like, wait, this is fun. But to go back and watch it and also kind of remember what it was like to direct. I remember watching Austin and Sharon work together and thinking, God, they're such good sparring partners.
Yeah.
They're both just so good. And as we've been observing this sort of, let's call it interesting direction that the writers want to take Julian's character.
We'll get there. He has no ego about being so self-deprecating. And there's something about the choices these two are making together that elevates all of this material. And I loved watching them. The humor that they found, the choices that they made. Like, I bought it mother and son immediately.
Right?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
What was it like directing this legend? I mean, was that intimidating?
No, because Sharon is so wonderful. She is not a person who flexes her might. She just shows up to elevate everyone around her. And so I think I was just so enamored with her. And, I'd walk over and have a thought, and she'd kind of lean in, and in her very musical way.
Yeah.
Like you said,
And
she
you were like,
floats.
wait, can I just smell you for a second? Why do you smell so good? Okay,
And,
sorry, I have
she
to direct
leans
you.
in. Exactly. She sort of leans in and is like, "Ooh, I like that." And you're like, "You do? You like me? What did you say?" It was just so much fun for me.
Yeah.
And I really cherish her in general, but especially the way she showed up. For a young kid directing her, it was really generous.
Yeah.
I've had the good fortune of playing her son on a couple of movies, and
I was her daughter once too.
No, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's so funny, Rob.
But you're exactly right. Like, she was always game to try things and always had fun ideas. She just was always up for anything. And great sense of humor. Yeah, just like all the things. If someone starts singing, she can break out in a beautiful song. She can dance.
Yes.
Yeah,
Consummate
she can do it all.
professional.
We love you, Sharon Lawrence.
Yet to find a flaw, Sharon. It's getting annoying.
When she offers, though, to pay for the wedding, I mean, did you both have the same reaction I did, where you're just like, this is going to come with strings. No, don't believe it. And it did. It came with some serious strings. I thought it was so sweet of Brooke, though, that she brought the binder and wanted to invite her new mother-in-law in and say, like, hey, here's what I was thinking. Would you like to be a part of this with me? I thought, classy move.
But I did like seeing Brooke and Julian working together again. Like, it's just, I'm happy to see some happiness in her life and the way that he shows up for her, and Julian exploring this part of his creativity and figuring out what he's going to do. I mean, the attempted, let's get into it. The attempted emasculation of Austin Nichols continues and continues to backfire.
Yes, the failed attempt to emasculate
The
Austin
dog
Nichols.
costume, the high five, the man purse. It only makes him more three-dimensional, more quirky, more interesting, and interesting equals attractive. Like, it's such easy math to me. It's hilarious to watch this attempt just continue to fall on its face.
It's like the little kid thing of, like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. It never makes him look bad. If anything, it kind of weakens the character opposite him. Who, like, when Nathan's going like, nice purse. If anything, it makes Nathan just seem kind of juvenile.
Yep.
And him just being really comfortable and settled in himself.
Yeah. Like, what are you, an idiot? I've got a bag. What are you talking about?
When Julian and his mom have the matching costumes, did either of you have the Arrested Development moment of remembering when Buster and Lucille dress up in matching costumes for Mother Boy?
No, yes. I forgot Mother Boy. Oh my God. I haven't watched the show in so long. That's genius. Yes.
For the small portion of our audience who actually has watched Arrested Development, that's a terrific callback. You should check it out because it is strong Mother Boy vibes with Julian and his mom.
I remember knowing how well that scene was working, you know, the way that we sort of designed the shots, coming around the staircase, seeing him come out of the bathroom, going up the stairs to Sharon, who's floating down the stairs and using the coat, you know, like so musically. The shock on everyone's faces, and immediately you understand a dynamic and you go, oh, I know what I'm in for. And it still pleases me.
Mm-hmm. It also really works for Julian's character because we know he's got this sort of hero complex, or he's working through it, where he needs to show up and be the guy that like makes accommodations for everyone else, makes things easy, can sort of save the day. Mom comes into town. I don't want her to feel she wants to be included in Halloween. I don't want her to just have a costume by herself that's going to be so lonely. Yeah, I'll play along. Like, okay, it's annoying, but the confidence in who he is to just be able to show up and be like, okay, this is what's going to be helpful for my mom. It's annoying, but whatever. Who cares?
Refresh my memory. It was either in season 7 or season 6. He gives some backstory on her, right? Didn't she struggle big time and he felt he couldn't save her? Is that right? Is that where the root of his like? But I feel like the woman he was talking about maybe didn't make it, or
wait a second, you're
no,
right.
It was his mom. But it was just odd because this character comes in so full of life, such energy and presence that I found myself going, is this the woman he was trying to save? Because she seems good.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we're getting a note from our producer. Yes, that it was about his mother.
What is that?
What did he say? Like, I couldn't save her? We thought she died?
I thought it was depression, or like that her light went out and she couldn't see it in herself or something to that effect.
Oh gosh, I wish I remembered.
So anywho, that's why I was just surprised when she came on the scene. I thought, oh, it's interesting. The only thing I know about her was that she was not okay and he couldn't save her. And there's no mention, like there's no catching up story-wise or exposition to explain it, but you know, she seems like she's all right now.
I feel like that's one of those things that they think is so great for the story when explaining the dynamic between Julian and his dad. And then, 2 years later, they find out Sharon Lawrence is available and they're like, scrap that. She's going to be amazing.
That is such soap opera action. Behind the scenes to do that. Just be like, never mind. We'll just
move it along. There was something that I thought was so sweet. I made a note of it, and I realized it's something we see, a couple of episodes ago when you're still in the hospital, and there's this really lovely dynamic of Nathan just coming to sit with you all the time.
Yeah.
And now that you're out and he's beginning to figure out, like he referenced, what comes next. Brooke's figuring out what comes next. Who am I? What is my identity without this big career that I've had? And I sort of love the callback to high school when Brooke and Nathan finally said, like, oh, we've been through a lot of the same things.
I loved that.
I like, though, that now in this adult moment, you're seeing these experiences mirrored and they're both leaning on people. She's leaning on Julian. He's leaning on Clay. And it sort of hit me watching the two of you and your dynamic. You and James are so good together. And I made a note that it's kind of, it feels to me like one of the first times we're really seeing two of the men on our show have this sort of love story friendship the way we get to as the girls on the show. Like Brooke and Haley's dynamic or our dynamic with Peyton, like the female friendships have been these big roots. And I guess maybe because in the high school years, the journey for Nathan and Lucas is so hateful in the beginning, and then they wind up being these great brothers. But there's something about this, I don't know, there's something about the way the relationship has developed between you two as these adult men that's giving me nostalgia in a really cool way. And I don't know, do you remember like hitting a stride and knowing that your on-screen chemistry was so good, or did it just sort of feel so natural that you didn't track it at the time?
Well, I will say, as a viewer watching this right now, I find myself going like, oh, I'm witnessing Nathan grow up. Like I'm witnessing him really mature. Like as a father is where I see it the most. Yeah. Like the joy he's finding in just being a dad and sort of coming to terms with, you know, he's going to be a father as opposed to a basketball player and chase that dream. And so I feel him maturing a lot. And so the relationship with Clay feels seamless and effortless to me, that as he is evolving, he is able to have this kind of relationship with another man where they're vulnerable and they're present, you know?
Yeah. He did not have that with Dan. That was not modeled for him. So to be able to be in a place in his life now where his relationship with women has become really healthy, and now he's learning how to have healthy relationships with men. It's a beautiful thing.
While we were doing it, I liked James immediately. He was the first one I met. And James also, you know, there are a few people that when I'm around them, it's like catnip. I just can't help it. Like it makes me exponentially more playful and silly. And I just want to kind of like make them laugh. And James is one of those people. So I just loved doing things with him. So I think there was a pretty quick ease to our dynamic. And he's just so likable, you know, that it wasn't hard to play a character who loved this guy, you know, because James is just, he's kind of so easy to love. So it felt easy at the time. You know, I'm glad that it translated.
It is interesting, even just the small act of going around asking, you know, he gets this note from his son that you avoid things, and taking the initiative to reach out to a few friends, you know, in moments, be like, hey, is this true about me? Am I, you know, like, man, it's something we could all take a lesson from. Like I need to do that more. And I loved just seeing that modeled. It's so great. And I think probably a lot of men don't do that. I'm not a man. I don't know. Do you feel like that's something, maybe at our age now, but what are we supposed to be, 28 on the show at this point?
I think, listen, it's definitely something that a lot of men do, but I feel like it's just something that a lot of people do. I think a lot of people aren't terribly self-aware, and I think a lot of people don't care to be terribly self-aware. I think therapy and looking at yourself can be uncomfortable and just, it's labor intensive sometimes. And I think there's a lot of people who just go, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm not open to feedback. I'm not looking to work on that, you know, and which is fine. That's a choice. But it is cool to see Nathan going, oh, is that right? Okay, maybe this is a blind spot. Let me ask around.
Yeah, it was really neat.
I love that Jamie's such the wise owl. You know, I love that he says that, and that became a through line. Another through line, which was so weird and funny for me, was the whole bit with Chuck's dad in the mask.
Yeah, what?
It's this weird throwaway line that won't go away, and I just
Haley's fear of clowns. This was really well written though, because we have I don't want to say a lot, but there have been episodes that we've watched where everything feels very explained, very cut and dry. This is what the scene is, and it's the only thing that's happening in the scene. When you know that's not real life. In real life, there are all sorts of things going on at the same time. And I love that we're taking just some random little thing that Haley's afraid of clowns, and we've worked it in, and it's insignificant. It's not something that's like a meaningful storyline, but it just gives you this flavor of life going on around you. It keeps things alive and not feeling scripted.
And the perfect character to have be the vessel for that bit. Chuck is a nightmare. So you can only imagine what his home life. Sorry, I know that's harsh to judge a kid, but truthfully, that kid's a mess, right? And so it's perfect that you're going to make one of his role models have this really weird thing we don't explain.
Strange relationship to this scary clown mask. Yeah. So good. The Harry Potter of it all was so good. I mean, I totally forgot that Jamie dressed up as Harry Potter and that all of his friends did. That was just so cute. perfect trio.
Oh, it was so sweet.
How much fun did you have out there with them?
Oh my God, it was the best. Getting to direct all those kids was just so much fun because they were so excited about it. And, we were in that amazing kind of beautiful historic neighborhood, just 2 blocks off Market Street, and being able to dress a neighborhood as well. Halloween is such a fun thing to shoot because everything has a costume. The houses, like getting the fog machines out and finding the creepy place and all of it. It's like, it's just so enjoyable. And being able to not only do that, design that world, to then get to drop 3 adorable kids in it who were so amped, to be out there in costume, to be housing candy, all of it was just, it was so much fun. And by now, obviously, James and Jackson have such a great rapport. And so it was very sweet to watch James essentially be like dad for a day with all these kids, because he had to wrangle them, help me keep them in line. Because they're great little actors and they're wonderfully professional, but they're also children who are having a great time running around, slamming candy bars. And it was just like a wildly fun time.
There was another small thing that was in this episode that I don't know if it was just us on the day or if it was scripted, but when we're back at the beach house and Clay's handing out candy, he's obviously very proud of this big bowl of candy. And when the first kids come up, I loved the choice to have him actually explain how great the big bowl is, because you have your choice of the candies. I'm not just giving you something. Yeah. And then in a later bit, Quinn goes to hand him candy and Clay runs up and like shoos her away and goes, no. That the whole point is that they get to choose. And she's like, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. But it was such an organic way to show like this little quirk of Clay's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you did that.
Well, and to your point, it's those things that deepen all of these characters. Haley's fear of clowns, your obsession with candy. Like, it's the little details that make people feel specific.
Yeah. And it makes the show feel alive rather than everybody just sitting there being talking heads in perfect looking sets. That can get old real fast.
Yeah. It's like, okay, another thing, another day. And it just mixed it up in a way that felt really fun. And it was exciting and engaging to me as a director. And I saw how engaging it was for every single cast member.
Speaking of the beach house, did you
say it? Nothing. Just say it. Don't even couch it. Just say it.
That when you were talking to Quinn about, is it the beach house? Because if it's the beach house, we don't have to live at the beach house. Like, you kept saying it, but why isn't it just like, is it the house?
Yeah.
Why was the line always about the beach house? Do you have some other house somewhere? Like, why is it always referred to as the beach house? I mean, I just say my house.
It feels to me the same as when they go, I love you, Haley Scott. I love you, Quinn James.
Yeah.
Like, why do we need the last name?
You know what else they do always? The my girl and my man. Like, every couple says, is my girl hungry? I'm whatever, blah, 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 my man. Have you noticed that? Every couple.
No.
Oh, it's so irritating. It's clearly something that our creator thought was cute. And it's like Mean Girls, like, you're never going to make fetch happen. This is the same thing to me. We are never going to make this happen where every single couple has the same little nickname for each other. How's my girl today?
The only thing I still bristle on to this day is if I'm doing a job and there's a line where the character repeats the person's full name, because I got just this, we did it so much. I mean, truly, it was always, I love you, Quinn James. It was never, I love you, Quinn. I mean, at least that's how it felt to me.
Yeah. Like, does Jenny ever do that? Like, I love you, Robert Buckley.
No. And if she did, I'd be like, is there head trauma? What happened? Why are you doing that? No. I love you, Jenny Buckley. She'd be like, what's your problem?
Yeah. It really was such a thing on our show. I don't know.
It's
why.
Such a thing we could make it a drinking game. Like, it is in every episode. And probably multiple times in every episode, I feel like.
One thing that I really liked was how organic Nathan joining Clay's new agency
Yes.
has been. None of it felt
Yes, I'm
forced.
so glad you
It
brought
all
that up.
makes complete sense. And it's so smart because, like Clay says, he goes, first of all, I love that we got the actor who plays Troy back. He's
Yes.
great. I
he?
wish he had recurred.
I do too.
But I love that Clay says, like, you have a perspective that very, very few people do. Like, you can offer him something that none of these agents or I can't. So
Yes.
get in there. And I bought it. I loved it. But it was great because it wasn't like this clunky thing of like, I guess I'll be an agent. It just sort of him showing up for a friend to help out. It made sense. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is great.
And the little detail, the thread of Jamie asking Haley, I'm worried that Dad's gonna be in trouble again, or I don't know if he said start drinking, or that it's just gonna be bad because of what happened last time he quit basketball. And Haley explaining to him the difference that last time basketball left your dad, this time he's leaving basketball. But every little chance they had that Johnny, our writer, had to just tie in all the little threads, it really does make such a difference. And I loved seeing Nathan embrace this new side, this new thing. It's so cool.
I loved seeing a different color on Chase. The way he was being very cold towards Mia was not something that we've seen him do much of at all on this show.
Yeah.
And he was just, their whole thing was great. And arguably my favorite moment of the episode is the moment when Julian and Sylvia hit the bar at Trick. And Chase is like, how about I make you a drink? And Julian tries his best to convince his mom that it's a bad idea. And she's like very insistent. No, nonsense. I'll try it. She takes one sip and she says, oh God, that is bad. That is a bad drink. That is just terrible. And walks off. So good,
That
man.
is a bad drink.
So good.
She was so good, so elegant still and subtle, and just not going to engage that anymore. Wow.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be a Trick, we might as well dive into High Five Gate. As in the saga that is the attempted yet failed emasculation of one Julian.
I loved it. I just loved it. Every time Julian is authentically him, just unashamed, awkward himself, weird artist Julian, I love him more and more and more and find him more interesting. I want more of him on screen. It's great. Be a weird high fiver. Go for it. Why not?
Yeah.
Also, that wasn't weird. If anything, it was enthusiastic. But I mean, dude, you're dressed up in a giant dog costume. No one's taking themselves seriously right now. And so the fact, it just made all of the dudes look really petty and immature. That like, did you see the way high five? To me, it just looked like a guy who was going like, hell yeah, dude. Super high up top, high five. It's so dumb.
Do you remember ever having a conversation with Austin about this, either of you, where he explained like, I know what they're trying to do and I know exactly how to counteract it, or that he, like his intentionality around his character with all of this stuff that they were writing for him? Did he ever talk about it? Do you remember?
He was really unfazed.
Yeah.
Because he understood the politics of it, and knowing that we were leading up to Brooke and Julian getting married, and that very specifically Voldemort did not want Julian to have any friends.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to cast a bunch of like cool filmmaker guys. He didn't want to bring, any more good looking dudes onto our set.
So boring. What a boring personality.
This is a fact. I know this. I was like, so weird that you feel like you're competing with any of these people when you're not. And never were, sir.
I'm bored. I'm
it's
bored.
So boring and embarrassing. It's like so embarrassing.
It would be like if I was threatened by the guys on my fantasy football team and I felt like I was competing with them.
Yeah, like you're not in the NFL, honey. It's like so bizarre to me.
The level of insecurity is unbearably boring.
Do you think this is crazy? I've never thought this until right now, but you notice how we were talking the other episode, like Lee got himself into great shape. Lee's looking super handsome.
Yeah.
I know what is coming up for Lee's character.
Oh, you do?
Is there a world in which that is a result of maybe him having him glow up, getting some positive attention?
Of course.
Because that storyline, let's spoil it. Everyone's seen the show. He just gains weight, and it becomes a runner that he has just gained a lot of weight, and he's wearing like a legitimate like fat suit.
Wait, what? I have zero recollection of this.
Oh yeah, remember when they put Mouth in a full fat suit and facial prosthetics?
Yeah.
No.
That was like, the
it's
whole
coming.
storyline is just that he has gained a lot of weight. But it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it together, like I know I'm late to the party, but this is the best shape I've ever seen Liam. Like he looks awesome.
Oh yeah. Watching this episode last night, all the girls were here and Sammy goes, "Oh my God, Lee's jacked."
Yeah. So cute.
Like he looks amazing.
And that tan and his hair. Oh yeah. I was into it.
It's also, I was going to say a thing and then I was like, maybe that's a little too far, but let's just call it what it is. It's such a weird thing that our boss, who wanted to be our friend, but was sort of old enough almost to be our parent, didn't want competition around. So wanted to like emasculate all the boys at every step that he could. And part of me is like, I remember when, our wonderful writers started kind of cluing us in on all the things that were going on and what they would be told. Like, oh, well, I don't want to cast a bunch of hot guys to be Julian's friends. I'm not importing, XYZ to Wilmington, blah, blah. I'm like, first of all, it's so creepy. Second of all, none of us were interested in you. And third of all, you were married for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just what a disrespectful, honestly, it's so wild to me that in the midst of things that were so great, like this is such a great episode. All the actors are so great. The kids are so great. It's charming. It's sweet. It's like a lot of it's so innocent that there was this other side to the pendulum. Like as great as some things were, there was just this other dynamic that was so basic and boring and embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
That's like, this is one of my favorite Hilarie tricks that we learned about motherhood when she talked about how she would say to her kids when they're throwing a fit in public, "You're really embarrassing yourself." I use that I used it all the time. When the first time she said it, I was like, wow, it's so good. It's so good. But it's so smart. I've told so many parents that and friends of mine, it's so smart. But this is the case. It's a child really embarrassing themselves.
And it's so silly and short-sighted, right? Because it really, truly, that insecurity could have come at the detriment of our show. The only reason it didn't is because you had someone as charming and talented as Austin. Because had you properly emasculated him and he didn't know how to play it, you would have really impacted negatively one of your leading men.
Yeah.
And leading ladies. Because what does that say about Brooke?
Exactly. Right. It's bad. Let's talk about things that weren't bad. This is my favorite transition. I don't know if, I'm sure this was intentional because you put so much thought into it. There was a great moment towards the end where Clay and Quinn, I believe, were in bed, and you fade into a shot of Jamie passed out on the floor from candy, but it looks eerily reminiscent of the way we just found Clay and Quinn a couple episodes prior. Was that intentional?
I think it was less like, oh, I want to call that out, and more for me, there's been so much that's been heavy, and Clay and Quinn are safe in bed and Jamie's safe at home, and like what's sweeter than a little kid, passed out on the floor. And what felt important to me was communicating like the ease and the safety everyone was feeling, particularly for your characters, because this is when you discover that now, Quinn is hiding a gun and she's really struggling. Her anxiety is getting the best of her. And maybe she's not really dealing with this post-traumatic stress at the forefront of your communication as a couple. And so rather than, I don't think it was like, oh, I can kind of make it look like that. It was more, how do I communicate safety without having to have people talk about it?
Sure.
Yeah.
And the candy pass out for the kid feels very much like the Halloween version of Christmas morning in a way to me.
Yeah.
Like you fall asleep on Halloween night and you wake up on Christmas morning. And one thing I caught, and I don't know if you guys did, that I loved, because the deepening of this moment for Nathan, figuring out his identity, Haley coming in, seeing him watching that game that she thought was in the vault, and them talking about this sort of new chapter they're beginning, you know, to leave you two at ease together and see the little boy on the ground. It's such a sweet vignette of a family. And did you catch Jackson was trying so hard to keep his eyes closed that his little feet were going like this in the shot. Like his toes are wiggling, you know, because he's laying there kind of like, I wonder what's happening.
Yeah.
And
When are they going to say cut?
Yeah. And it made me laugh catching that.
I appreciate, though, what you're saying, Rob, about that, the callback, because even if it wasn't intentional, I mean, that's just a great example of letting the material speak for itself. Because when you just lean into the safety, the truth is that we don't feel totally safe, because there's still we all know Katie's still out there. Yeah. So it inevitably, as a byproduct, is going to feel like there's a sense of foreboding somewhere, because it can't possibly be all of this safe. So it really worked.
Right.
Was that Cullen on the couch that the kids had drawn a little?
Junk.
Was there a different scene with Junk that got cut? Because I just thought it was odd that out of nowhere,
yeah, was there?
Junk is on the couch passed out. I just thought, like, we didn't know he was a part of this night.
On the phone at the crisis center a couple episodes ago, so they may be like peppering him in, or just to remind the audience, like, oh, he's here, he's still around, because doesn't he? I would assume he'd jump in on Mouth's storyline that I don't remember. I don't know. So was he in more?
And having him babysit the kids while we're all at Trick is a callback. I can't remember if it must be I don't know if it's a season 6 or a season 7 moment, but remember when Junk and Fergie are supposed to be watching Jamie?
Yeah.
So we have this recurring thing that they will watch the kids.
Yeah. I forgot that we all were at Trick. My brain saw the kids in their costumes and just thought, wasn't Nathan just with them? But you're right. All the adults were at Trick, and yes, we have established that that he babysits.
And that's part of the reason that we didn't have Nathan dressed up taking the kids trick-or-treating, to very clearly delineate, like, he went and did the dad thing with the kids and then brought them home, got changed, and went on a date with Haley to open mic night.
You had your hands full in this episode, Soph. There's a lot of moving pieces, a ton of characters, a ton of locations, so many storylines to keep track of. Golf clap.
Yes, big golf claps. Did you guys notice my hair looked orange?
No.
Yeah. Everything starts to get that kind of copper tint to it. The color timing on our show really goes warm
orange
and yellow.
Oh yeah, I had full stripes. I mean, that was a rough look for my hair. Every time we were over my shoulder, I was like, oof. Those highlights were really struggling.
Yeah.
Each stripe fighting their way through.
That year, coming into season 8, it was like that summer that the ombre hair was such a big thing. And you really see it with my hair straightened like that, you know, flat ironed, pin straight. I'm like, oh, wow, look at those really light ends. They work a little better in a curl than they do. That was a moment.
All the little things we notice. And but
moments.
Think about how many girls out there did that with their hair because they loved it, because you were wearing it that way. It doesn't even matter.
Before there was the Rachel, there was the Brooke.
That's right.
No, she came first.
She did technically, but
that last vignette though with Nathan and Haley and Jamie, I thought was great. I loved the moment of vulnerability where Nathan is saying, will I ever be great at anything again?
Yeah.
Now that his basketball chapter's over. I loved that. And I loved the way Haley reassured him. It was yet another moment of just a really good teammate and just a good partnership. And then the way you went out on it was so beautiful, where it's this slow pan out shot of the three. And that's the announcer from the basketball game, you know, talking about the game itself, but obviously it works for this. But he says, Nathan Scott is having one of those nights he's going to remember for the rest of his life. Yeah. It's like, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. It was great that the previous episode was really so much about healing in all these different areas. And this was just a great transition point. We got we got a bit of all the new things that are breaking forth, a little tie up of some things, new stuff with Chase and Alex and their relationship now turning into a new zone where or will they, won't they? She's going to take off and go do a movie. He feels a little bit used. He feels a little unsure. So I'm really excited to see what the next episode's going to be because we did put a bow on so many things in the previous and this episode.
Honorable mentions?
I mean, mine really go to crew, like Carol Cutshall and wardrobe and Rocky and the makeup. I mean, everyone is so good in this episode. And the way people really showed up and committed to this material, it's like I want to give it as a blanket to everybody. But they created, it's like they brought extra characters to set for us.
Yes.
And I'm just amazed by what they do.
They were having so much fun. I mean, you could tell. It was just because it was out of the ordinary. It wasn't what we usually do. So everybody was excited to show up and work and do something different than they've been doing for the last 10 months or 2 years. It was great.
So what's yours, Joy? Crew as well?
Yeah, same. Carol and Tim and Rocky. And I mean, just the whole, was Jane in wardrobe at that time? I can't remember, but there's the whole Jane Beck. Yeah,
Jane Beck,
that whole crew was outstanding. I guess, Sophia, you can get my honorable mention, though, for being the director behind the scenes, taking care of it all, guiding the ship.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go as well. So if you directed the heck out of this episode, you should be very proud of it because it's awesome. But if I got to give a specific moment from the episode, I thought the reveal of Erin was incredible because she does not sing in an Irish accent. So I was in no way expecting it. So then when Haley goes, hey, you're great. And she says, whatever, thank you very much with that thick accent. I was like, no, holy smokes. It's Erin from the helpline.
Yeah. It's so fun. It was great to get her. And yeah, that thing really gave the reveal an extra punch, I think. You're right.
All right. We got a question here. Bean asks, as an actor, what has been your hardest scene to act out emotionally? For example, like when Brooke finds out she can't have kids or when Haley lost her mom. Also, of those heavy scenes, which have been your favorite? I would say the funeral scene, Sarah's funeral scene, was probably the hardest one I did on this show. Just because, again, it was the heaviest scene I'd ever done in my career to that point. It was something I had absolutely no experience with, and I just put so much pressure on myself. So I would say that was my most challenging. Happy with how it turned out, but yeah, it was stressful at the time.
Yeah.
When Haley thinks Nathan has died, she has to go to the morgue to look at the body.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, I think it's coming up. If we haven't had it already. But, because that's my short haircut, so it's the last season. That was just really hard because I can cry so much better if there's another person in the scene.
Yeah.
I'm so connected to energy of people that if I'm looking at you, I sense what your energy is, and it's great as an actor unless you're working with somebody who's super robotic, and then that's hard. But it's to just have to conjure all that on my own. I remember it feeling really difficult, and they were great. They tried. I played some music over the loudspeaker on set, and everybody was quiet. But then I felt self-conscious about having to take over the stage with my music and my process, and was like, oh, this just feels so everybody's looking at me, and it's all
Yeah.
It was just hard to get out of my head and really be there. And I think also because I was actually pregnant at the time, and I was already so stressed out in my real life and worried about the stress on the baby, that then to go to work and have to do something enormously stressful and worry that was muscle memory that was going to be, those hormones moving into my baby. I don't know. I really did not like shooting that. That was the hardest.
I was having a very similar thought, and it's interesting to me that we're both for each of our characters having a similar experience. The storyline of Brooke finding out she couldn't have kids, it was so sad and tragic, and everybody cried on set that day. I mean, Maddie was crying behind the camera, Austin, but I got to do that with Austin and talk through it, say what was happening. The thing that was the hardest for me, much like what you're saying, was when I was just scripted to finally break down at Quentin's funeral, because there was no talking, nothing was happening. We were just standing, and I'm looking at this casket, and they're like, okay, sob now. And that to me is so much harder than actually having an emotional experience with another person and letting that emotion come out, to just be, like you had to in the morgue, to just be like, okay, and we're going to pan and then come up to your face. And if that's when you could start bawling, that would be great. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And now that you say that, all I had was just an empty casket. There was no one on set with me that day. It's interesting. You're right. It is so much easier when you have another person to feed off of.
Yeah, because you get to find it, and you can say, like, give me a second, and like, will you repeat that? If you need it, you can have a journey.
Let's spin a wheel. Most likely, I feel attacked. Most likely, actually, Soph might feel attacked too. Most likely to keep Christmas decorations up all year. Is it you or Ash that would feel attacked, actually?
Probably. I mean, she just loves Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
I love to decorate for all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably, maybe her the most, but there is at current only one tree still left up. Thank you. I'm getting there.
Wow.
Only one.
That's impressive. I dragged my feet until Jenny finally said, enough is enough. You need to take down the Christmas lights. So I would say I'm on the short list.
I leave those lights on all year round. You kidding me?
You do?
It's such a pain in the ass to put them up. Just leave them.
I do not disagree.
You leave them on the house and then just don't turn them on.
Yeah. I mean, they're white. They go along the edge of the gutter. It's not like you see them.
Yeah, why not?
Know. Why not? I do still have some decorations that need to go in a box, though. They're all in one. At least they're all in one area, but the boxes are out. They still need to go up into the attic. I
have this sort of fantasy. When you do the thing, you're driving with, your friends or your partner or whatever, and you see the and the Powerball is $776 million this week.
Yeah.
And you do the what would you do if you won the lottery, what would you do? And there's the meme that goes around that's like, you wouldn't know, but there would be signs. I'm like, if I think about it, and one of the top things on my list, when you go to a botanical garden and they have the lights that wrap all the trees.
Oh yeah.
I think they're in clear tubes and they go around all the way up the palm trees, and they do the full oak trees, and they just look magical. And I'm like, if I won the Powerball, I would have someone come and wrap every tree that I can see in my yard. I would ask my neighbors. I'd be like, I'll pay for it. Can I just, the whole neighborhood? That would be the sign, probably, for me.
I love that.
I love it.
And then they'd be up all year, and we would just be in
Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, all the time.
Next episode, season 8, episode 7. Luck be a lady.
Okay.
It's been fun.
It's been fun.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Hey, thanks for listening.
Don't forget to leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at DramaQueensOTH.
Or email us at dramaqueens@iHeartRadio.com. See you next time.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.